Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today I have a special guest with us. He is a screenwriter, and he has a screenplay that's out right now. It's gotten tons of attention, and it's called Eggs in the Attic. I have with us today Jason Compercio. Jason, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thank you, Travis. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor, really.
Yes, and by the way, I want to say a shout out to Shiva Rodriguez with the Magic of Horror Film Festival. Definitely check them out. Their film festival is going to be October in Virginia, so definitely, I'll be there. So definitely check it out. All right, Jason, tell us a little bit about Eggs in the Attic, which is a interesting title.
So, Eggs in the Attic. It starts off. It takes place in a town, Straterville, Wyoming. It starts off with a scientist who works for the government, and upon his experiments, he ends up getting let go by the government and ends up going rogue. He's splicing DNA with the most fierce parts of animals to create these creatures, lab-grown creatures. Using splicing the DNA using the most fierce part of the animals the government wasn't too fond on that. Let him go. He ends up continuing his experiments at home. In particular, at home, it's in the attic. God forbid someone were to come in his house. It would be in a secret spot in the attic, inside of a wall where his lab is. He ends up dying in an untimely death in a car accident. The house ends up getting owned by the bank, going up for sale, and this new family moves in. And at the time of his death, these creatures were probably at about 95%, so they're just growing, getting bigger the way he had everything left, and they end up getting out and wreaking havoc on the town as their search for food is the only thing that's on their mind, because, as I said, when he spliced the DNA using, the speed of a cheetah, the eyes of an eagle, they have the most intelligent splicing in the DNA that benefits them, and also makes them very, very violent. So, they end up on the town. It's a very small town, and people, I always try to have a genuine reaction of how people would react in such a crazy situation, and it ends up circling around the family that purchased the house, which is mother and father. And during the time of these creatures coming out of the attic, is a babysitter's watching the young child Bradley, where his two parents are out of town. She's watching him for the weekend, and he ends up fighting back as the new kid in town, along with the police officer and his girlfriend. The three of them end up trying to make some sort of heads or tails of what's going on and trying to survive.
So this is an interesting story. Now, I interview a lot of horror authors. Now, I can imagine as a screenplay writer, you got to use a lot of more visualization, because you're this is going to be adapted into a movie, which people are going to see. So is that a little more challenging than writing a book?
So yeah, it's completely different. I do want to venture writing books eventually. As like, this is a screenplay format. It's being sold as a book too. It's completely different than a book. And with, like you said, the challenging aspect of having a visual of it. When I'm writing this, it's almost like when I'm writing, my mind's on play and I'm watching it unfold. As I'm writing it is the vision I have. So it's very different than a book just setting up the whole screen and describing what you see. So it's definitely more of a visual, getting everything ready in that screenplay format to be understood, to be ready to be shot in front of a camera.
And this movie, there's a lot of pieces. I mean, there's a lot of pieces moving in the screenplay. I mean, it sounds like, to me, while I'm listening to this, I'm getting a little vibes of sci-fi as well as horror. Now,
100%.
What gave you? Yes. Now, what gave you your inspiration when you were coming up with the idea for this?
So, inspiration. I'm a big film fanatic of I just love 80s horror comedy, even 90s and 70s. I feel like it's been off track ever since we've gotten like CGI involved. I love movies that where makeup artists and creators who created things such as like the Chiatos brothers. They made Critters, the movie Critters, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, where creatures were physically built with their bare hands, and as opposed to relying on the CGI. And I think it's I'm a fan of all those movies from the 80s. Critters, Ghoulies. Even Jurassic Park, the animatronics, and I also I want to tell a special story that's never been told. So my goal is to always be just to explore something different and tell a fresh story that's almost just like kind of like lost in that decade, but never actually came out.
And when it comes to the actual look of these creatures, you probably do a great job of describing them.
Right.
Now, when it comes to a filmmaker who takes up and say, I want to make this into a film, are you going to be working hands-on with them to get the actual look and the feel for the creatures?
I would love to. I would love to be a part of it. Now, I've never been behind the camera. But I would just love to. When I say behind the camera, I mean filming a movie. I mean, obviously, home videos and all that. But I know it's such a new thing to me. But I would love to be a part of it just to make sure everything's justified of my vision that I have. I would love to make sure the creatures, everything's set up the way it should be, because each one is distinctively different. Each one has different traits of other animals around the world, like the scientist that splices the DNA. It's from living things on the planet, or possibly also prehistoric extinct things that it was also able to get DNA from. And it's all the creatures are distinctively different. I would love to. I mean, when you think of like movies like Gremlins and Critters, the reason those things were built by hand, and I think where Hollywood is so out of touch with that, just because of the computer animation that we rely on. They stray away from what created from the ground up, which is Hollywood film. In Hollywood film.
I 100% agree. Now, but how does it work with a screenwriter? So you have a script, you have a screenplay down, and you have how it is mapped out and laid out. And a filmmaker says, "You know what? I'm interested in doing this." Do you have creative control, or does the filmmaker have all the say all, be all?
So, well, one of the festivals I'm in for Once Upon a Dirt Nap, where I'm one of the top 3, and if I do win that, I would, it would get turned into a mini series, but I would also be, it said, executive producer, where I would have control over certain things, such as like the creativeness, but I wouldn't be the director. And the director can change the ending. But I would have control in certain things. So I think it's based on the filmmaker that were to pick up my screenplay, and how much control they would have, and how much control they would allow me to have when it would come time to that point.
Now, when it comes to movies, the screenwriter is probably one of the most important pieces. Now, how in the hell, Jason, do you come up with creative ideas for movies?
So I've been writing since I was maybe 13, and I wrote Eggs in the Attic in 2001. I wrote it in a comic book format because I didn't have a computer, so I would fold the papers and staple the sides, and then the cover on the front, and then a synopsis on the back. And honestly, I would get these visions of movies or stories that have yet to be told, and I would just sometimes I would just have a story pop in my head, and then I would just think about that story. And as I'm thinking about it, different scenes and ideas are flowing through my mind. I used to be a truck driver, so on the road I would have a lot of time to constantly take notes in my phone. Obviously, when I was pulled over, but I would add notes into my phone to, just farther myself for different scenes for stories. But yeah, I would just get these visions of stories, and ideas, and once I see that they've yet to be done, I kind of just keep going with it and thinking about it. And yeah, I would just be talking with somebody, and then all of a sudden an idea pops into my head, whether it's a new scene to a story that I thought of or a completely new story. And then once I would constantly think about that scene or story, my mind would just expand with new scenes and different parts of the story.
So is it kind of hard to turn your brain off? Because I can
Yeah,
imagine stories are always popping in.
yeah. It is. It is. I used to actually have trouble sleeping at night due to just constantly, once I'm ready to shut down, I would have another idea pop into my head, and then I'm taking notes to that, and then I would have another idea pop in my head. But it's yeah, I have tons and tons of. I have a few hundred stories I've written since 2001, and in comic book format, and these are the ones that I'm transitioning, like Eggs in the Attic I wrote in 2001, and I transitioned it into a screenplay 2 years ago. So and then there's fresh stories that I'm working on now. So it's really, I just want to tell a tale that's never been told, and I really love the original ideas that Hollywood had in the starting years of, even like you look at horror movies, even say Nosferatu, or even Creature from the Black Lagoon. You have these original characters, and then you have, instead of original characters coming out nowadays, you have rehashes or remakes, which they're not fresh ideas. They're more or less of a throwback, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I think it's important to just tell a fresh story and to be original as much as you can, as pure as you can be as a writer, to just tell something new.
Now, do you think Do you think it is? It's tough to come up with a new story, or like I said, let's say come up with a new story, but to put a new story out there, because like I feel like the safe thing to do is go with the proven, slashers,
Right.
found footage, paranormal shit. You know,
Yeah. No, you're right.
you've seen this out there and it works. Is it a little more challenging or risky to go with a new idea?
I think it is risky to go to a new idea, because people, studios might be looking for something that already succeeded. You know what I mean? Like they might say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, like you're saying, paranormal activity, right? You have that
Yep.
come out, and then you have about 30 other movies coming out in a span of 3 years that Hollywood is spitting out that are mimicking paranormal activity, even though it already came out. Now you're having 30 different stories where these writers are copycatting what was already successful and trying to hold on to that and sponge off of that, as opposed to telling a real story. And I think maybe a lot of the writers out there do have those original ideas, but feared that it won't be as successful because of the crowd. The crowd would be completely new to the crowd, and I think attention span is a big thing these days. If you're making a long movie, you got like Killers of a Flower Moon. You're making a really long movie like that. In order to keep everybody's attention, the audience, you have to make it completely. You got to keep them completely engaged a full amount of time. And I think horror movies nowadays, when you look at the success rates, I would think we've kind of strayed away from 90-minute long films to now it's like 130, 140 minutes. And I think that's where you start failing, when you start dragging on. And yeah, there's just so many aspects of that.
And I'm 41, but I've noticed I'm kind of like that right now. When I go into Tubi or I go into
Yeah.
whatever, I look at the one of the first things I look at is the runtime, and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh shit, that's
Well,
two
you
hours
have
and
time,
40 minutes. Yeah, I'm
right?
like, I don't have time to sit and. It could be a movie that I want to see too, and I'm like, boy,
Yeah.
I don't have time to devote 2 hours and pretty much 3 hours of my fucking day
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
this movie, and I used to not be that way.
Right. Yeah, it never was. It wasn't always that way. I don't know what's happened with that, and I just feel that that's that draws people away too, especially like the younger generation. Like you know, we'll have like our babysitter. We have three little ones, so me and my wife will go on a date night once a month, and the babysitter will come in, and they're in their early 20s, going to college still, and I'll always say to them, I'll say, oh, you see any movies lately? I just kind of want to see like what these younger people are into, and a lot of them just fixate on either like YouTube or like just watching something off YouTube, or really their attention span isn't really there for like a long movie, And I think it's I mean, I think Hollywood's got to take like kind of like a step back into the direction of what made them successful. When you look at certain movies and their runtime has gone up so much, and like you said, you can't even. I mean, you want to watch a flick before you go to bed. You're looking at the runtime and you see like 2 hours and 37 minutes or so. I'm like, oh my god! Or like I don't have time for that. And yeah.
Because I tell the story that like the last horror movie I saw in a movie theater, and I actually enjoyed this one, but like I was sitting in the theater, it was 2 hours. I want to say it was 2 hours and 30 minutes, and that was Terrifier 2 when it was out.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And I was like, holy! I remember like halfway through the movie, I was like, holy shit! I'm like, oh my goodness, is this fucking movie almost over? Like,
I felt the same way.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it, but like it felt like they could have cut out a good 45 minutes of that movie, and it would have gave me everything that I fucking. But like it was like they put 45 minutes of that whole TV show with the. It was like this whole flashback to a TV show thing, and it had nothing to do with the fucking movie. And I'm like, okay, yeah. It had nothing to do with it. I'm like, I kept saying to myself, okay, well, maybe this is going to tie into some kind of way. It had nothing to do with the fucking movie. And I'm like, well, what was that? Was that filler or something? I'm like, shit.
Yeah, that was, I was a big fan of Terrifier 1. And just like you, they tried to do the same shit from part 1, add it into part 2, but then make it more of something. I think the director and writer was just straying away from the actual story, like with the whole dream state. I felt was like kind of like Freddy Krueger-ish, almost like Nightmare on Elm Street-ish, where they were focusing so much on that, and they were focusing on so many parts of the movie. Like you said, if they took that 40 minutes out, you would have been very satisfied as a viewer. But because I think the popularity of part 1 made them want to take it to another level, and they took it the wrong way in part 2. I thought the main characters were phenomenal. The lead actress was phenomenal, and I just felt that they just strayed away from what made them successful.
Yeah, and I absolutely hated the first one. But by the way,
oh, you did? Okay.
I hated the first one, but the second one, everything I hated about the first one, the second one did so much better.
Okay.
It did so much better with character development. You got to know. It was somewhat of a fucking story, and,
right.
But like, boy, that whole fucking flashback dream thing with the fucking. I was sitting in a theater just like this. What is this? Like, okay, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna sit through this a little bit more because this is gonna tie in some kind of way into the fucking. Not at all. Not at all. Right. I'm like, damn.
It was you would think it would have, and I know they're working on a part 3, and then so hopefully maybe he listen. I think directors and writers need to listen to the fans, like yourself, leaving a review like that. I mean, people leave the reviews, and then I think sometimes directors and writers, fans will leave the reviews on the website. I mean, and they're out there, like when you click on, fan reviews, as opposed to the critics. I mean, you want to see what the people want, and I think that's a huge thing with the industry, where directors and writers should really see like what people are saying as opposed to like what the critics say, because the critics are just. I mean, you're not going to find an Academy Award performance in a horror or a comedy or a sci-fi. I mean, you might, very rare if you were to, but I mean, they critique the wrong things,
I agree. Now, as a screenwriter, you're coming up with new ideas.
Right.
Have you ever like written down and like came up with a great idea and you looked around and you're like, oh shit, someone just made that movie.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've very, very, very sadly, I have written ideas for a screenplay. I've had like 100 pages ready, and then I'm like, well, let me just make sure this doesn't exist, and it did exist, and I was like, well, maybe it's different. And I watched a movie and it was the same, and I'm like, oh, geez, you know. So yeah, that's definitely happened, sadly.
Because
You
I can
know,
imagine it's so fucking hard to like to try to find an original idea when it comes to horror movies because there's so much horror out, especially right now when it comes to indie horror. There's so much horror out right now. There's a movie about everything.
yeah, no, and you're right. I mean, there's so much out, and I think with the horror industry, you know, I feel that it goes through certain stages. Like we go through the vampire stage, right? All the vampire movies, Twilight, which I felt was one of the most awful movies to come out,
Yeah,
you know. And I was like, when people love that, I was like, oh my god. I'm like, oh no, like where are we going? You know, this is not a horror movie. It's horrible. It's
I had a
horrible.
filmmaker on. I would say I had a filmmaker on, and he was like, I asked him what his favorite horror movie was, and he said Twilight. And
Oh
I was like,
no,
this. I paused. I was like, oh
yeah.
shit.
I don't. Yeah. Oh, so you
That's not the
agree?
right answer. That's
You
not the right answer to say on my channel.
so you agree with me with that? That's yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, when you look at like vampire films like The Lost Boys, or even Salem's Lot, the book, the movie, but
Fright
then
Night.
Fright
I
Night,
mean,
so phenomenal. Yeah. Yeah, no, Twilight just was not good, but it's yeah. I think the horror industry goes through the stages, like when you said paranormal. We go through the stages of Paranormal Activity, and then you have all these rehashes coming out, and then Blair Witch Project, right? Then you go from the camcorder feeling of a very natural setting where it's like very realistic, you know. And then the vampire movies, then what, Jaws, and then you have like Sharknado and all these, and then you have, you know, all these copycats of Sharknado. Now it's something else, and you
I
know,
said all the time. Like I was born in the early '80s. I've seen the 7 or 8 stages that horror has went into and killed. And the hit success, like in the '80s, it was a slasher.
yep,
Boom, 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 boom. Nothing but slashers. And then like you say, Paranormal Activity. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Paranormal Activity was such a great movie in the late '90s, and then boom, we got hit and over the head with found footage over and over and over again.
constantly.
And the next stage was Scream. Scream was such a great
Oh,
movie
yeah,
success, and then we got like 5 years of fucking Scream knockoffs. I know what you did last summer, Urban Legends. I mean,
right,
just went
right, right.
on and on and on. And I mean, to the point, every horror movie that came out for those 5 years literally had that same poster that Scream had. You know what I mean? It had the
Yeah,
same fucking look poster. Even Halloween H2O like had the same Scream poster. Like
you're right.
it followed the formula of Scream, and it just went on and on and on. And then of course you have Hostel, and that went into
Mm.
the torture porn for a while, and then Paranormal Activity happened. Boom, Conjuring. Boom, we had a whole bunch of Conjuring followers, Exorcists, all that fucking shit went in there for it. It's just like, and now right now we're in the A22 slash Terrifier realm of horror right now, which is over top gore or that A22 indie grindy looking horror.
Yeah, I mean that's you're right. You're 110% right. I mean, you touched all the points on that, and that's where we are now. Yeah, and I feel that it's um you know, there was a lot of attention going to the movie, like you said. We're in that slash. We're kind of like in a almost like a rebirth of the slasher phase, because now you have the movie In a Violent Nature that came out. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see it yet. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen yet.
But it's almost like a rebirth of Jason Voorhees.
Yep.
You know, it has that same concept, you know, where they really just want to scare you and kind of like leave a little mystery to main antagonist. And I do feel that Terrifier is also a rebirth of certain maybe almost clown horror type movies.
Mhm.
Like almost like Stephen King's It, but kind of like a knockoff version, just a retelling. Especially when it went into that whole dream state, that was in
Yeah.
Terrifier too. But yeah, I do believe that we're in an interesting stage of horror movies where things will start being. I mean, well, sadly, hopefully, new movies and new characters will rise as opposed to recreations. I could see them recreating like a Freddy Krueger type movie, but titling it something different, but almost like a Dream Warriors type movie coming out within the next few years. I could see them just, they want to get studios and, horror studios in particular that work with horror movies. I think they're going to want to recapture success from the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
but I think that we're in a different time period now where attention span is a real problem with like you said, just finding that right runtime. I
Yep.
feel is important for people, young people. I just feel you need to relate to them, so I think it's just going to be different horror movies. I know they're making a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then Urban Legends has been in the talk. What's that?
I'm not gonna watch those. I was never a fan of those
No.
movies, like
I wasn't
in
either.
that genre. And but I'm gonna tell you what's next. I'm gonna tell you what's next, and you can hit me up in a year or two. We're gonna go back to what's next is that Seven, like the movie Seven with Brad Pitt. We're gonna go back to that kind of horror for a couple years because I forgot about that genre of horror and that Silence of the Lambs, Seven, Long King the Spider, all of that shit. That went on for a couple years. I think we're going back, and I think that's next. I think we're going to retread back to that.
I agree with you on 110%. And what's funny that you just said Seven and Silence of the Lambs. I was talking with my buddy from work, and he was going to see the movie Longlegs this past weekend with Nicolas Cage, and I said that reminds me so much of a crossbreed between Seven and Silence of the Lambs. And he was he was super psyched to see it. So he did see it. I have not seen it, but it's funny. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it, but I do want to see it.
You do want to see it, and that's what I was thinking of. It's funny that you said Seven and Silence of the Lambs, because to me, based off of the trailer and the story, it looked like it mimicked it in every way that you would want as a fan.
That's definitely going to be the next thing, because I think Longlegs is going to be a success, and I think they are going to beat that over the head. That's going to be beaten over the head for about 3 years.
You're 110% right.
Yep, and beaten over the head 3 years, and then I think from there, I don't know what's next after that. I don't know if found footage is going to make. Found footage made a comeback in indie horror, but when it comes to big mainstream, I don't know. But I think slasher is dead when it comes to mainstream, and I think the torture porn, which I'm glad, is fucking dead too.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They got
even though I like Hostel, I do like Hostel, but at the same time, I didn't want to see fucking 10 Sauls. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were definitely beating us over the head with that stuff. But I mean, and it's crazy because people who are from the outside, when I consider myself a horror connoisseur, right?
Right.
I explain to people, and most people, horror fans, don't get this. Hardcore horror fans don't get this. 70% of the people who are horror fans are casual horror fans. Those are people who go and see horror movies in the theaters. You know, they see the new Blumhouse horror movies out, or the new whatever. They're not the ones who are going to go see Maxine or the X series. They're not going to go see that, but they're going to see anything that Blumhouse. They're going to see the Conjuring. They're going to see the Halloweens. They make up the largest portion of the horror fandom.
True.
The other 30% are the hardcore fans who will watch, Ghoulies or indie horror movies that no one's ever heard of. but that's
Right.
only 30%. So like you have to, and like when I say Damien Leone and the Terrifier, who like what he has done over time is he has gotten the indie horror fans, and now he's getting those fucking casuals. So like
True.
Terrifier 3 is going to be fucking box office numbers. I'm talking about is going to be massive.
I agree with you, and that's 110% correct. I mean, I can't agree with you anymore. I mean, it's just he's gotten both audiences, and
Yeah.
I think that's hard to do, and I think it will shatter the box office when that comes out. That's probably coming out in an October release, I would imagine, right?
I know it's coming out this year. I don't know when.
Okay.
It's supposed to be Christmas themed, so maybe it might come out.
Oh, that's true. That's
December.
true.
Yeah, so maybe it might be in December.
And then when you look at Christmas horror movies such as like Black Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and the success, I think there's a big audience for Christmas horror movies. I mean, I think like around that time period, I think it's kind of like a no-brainer. I mean, because you're entering a time of like happy or sad for some people when it comes time towards the holidays, right? So, and I feel that to come out with a horror movie such as Terrifier 3 during that time, you're going to grab a lot of people.
A lot of people. Now, I don't think it's going to be good, but I think it's going to get huge box office numbers because as an indie horror, if I was an indie horror creator right now, I would make my horror movie not for hardcore fans. I would make it for the casuals because the casuals are the ones who are going to pay, and you know what I mean. The casuals is such a big number because you can walk to a casual fan and they can tell you every single thing about the major horror characters, but they can't tell you nothing about Toxic Avenger or fucking
such a classic.
Yeah, they can't tell you nothing about Sleepaway Camp, but they can tell you everything you possibly know about Freddy and Michael Myers, and that's who the studios that's who they're targeting. They're not targeting hardcore horror fans. They're targeting the casuals.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where the money is really with the casuals. There's just like you said, where I feel that we are fans like you and I are outnumbered by them. And I love the Beetlejuice shirt. And how do you feel about that sequel? I'm curious.
I'm nervous.
Me too. Me too.
Anytime it takes decades for a sequel to come out, I always get nervous. Or it takes a long time. I always get nervous. But I mean, guess what? I will go and see it and support it. I love Michael Keaton and I love the original. I've seen it a billion times growing up as a kid. So I would definitely support it.
It's me too. And I feel, I'm a huge fan of the original Beetlejuice. I've been, like you said, it's been years in the making. And I feel that in my mind, I don't think, it will succeed to when I view it because I'm going to be expecting the world of it, and if it's anything less, you're going to be disappointed, right? It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to feed your mind to that point of excitement. And I think it's great that Tim Burton though is going back to basics, and I think that's what Steven Spielberg, like when you look at directors, writers, I just. Well, mainly the directors, Spielberg, Burton. I mean, going back to basics, where they like Steven Spielberg, E.T., such a great movie. Go back to that storytelling, but I feel like once those directors get to a certain level of popularity, they take on the next biggest challenging role, the next challenging role, and they try to go up and up and up, as opposed to create what got them there, which is using their pure imagination, and I feel like Beetlejuice is it's such a standalone character that it's shocking that he's never gotten a sequel,
Yeah. I mean, it's also one of those films that I wasn't asking for a sequel. So
right, same, yeah.
There's certain films that I absolutely love, but I would not want to see a sequel. And and there's some films I love, and they had sequels, and I'm like, oh god, I wish it seems like the sequels fuck up with the actual, the lore of the original.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sequels do fuck up the original because the original, you're telling a story. Most of the time, it should be a story that's yet to be told. You're exploring new characters. You're introducing new characters, new scenes, and then in a sequel, it's not new, but you're continuing the story. So you're not feeding the audience something fresh unless you're introducing like a new villain. But even then, that wears off, and I think the introduction to something new in the first one is the best part. That's what brings in the popularity of it. And then the sequels, just you're trying to rehash what was successful,
The cash grab.
Yeah. Oh, cash grab. Absolutely. I hope Beetlejuice is not a cash grab though, and
I hope not either.
I think I know Tim Burton turned. I was reading articles in the past. I remember somebody pitched him an idea. Beetlejuice goes to Hawaii to take him, and then Tim Burton said it was horrible, not doing it. And then now they're doing this. So I think he is going to be picky with his storytelling, and the way he directs the movie. So hopefully it's something good. But yeah, like you said, cash grabs, and that's the big problem with like Redbox, for instance. Before we all started. The streaming services have taken over. Everybody used to go to. I used to go to Redbox constantly. We would go grocery shopping, and me and my wife would stop at a Redbox, see what's new, see if it's available, if it's out of stock. Just the excitement. Once Blockbuster is such a beautiful thing to have in people's childhood. I think because I even remember the scent of walking in the store. Just the scent of walking in the Blockbuster. You got the candy, the popcorn, the movies, and it's so nostalgic, And then we go from that once that was sadly gone under. And now I think they have an Airbnb. They have one Blockbuster that's left in the United States. But then we went to Redbox, and I feel like a lot of the movies in there. The reason I'm bringing this up is because cash grabs. I felt like a lot of them, like you would see the two-headed lizard or something. If there was like a Godzilla movie that came out, and it would be like a complete cash grab knockoff, and you would see it right on the display of Redbox. I'm like, oh my god, that looks horrible. Or like you got the Piranha movie coming out, and then you got Mega Piranha, and I'm like, and I see it in the top of the Redbox, and it's out of stock, and I'm like, oh my god, people want to see these movies. They're complete cash grabs, complete knockoffs. The story's horrible, acting's horrible, because like you said, the only thing that was in mind was a cash grab, and not entertaining the audiences or coming out with something special.
I agree. And by the way, you bringing up cash grab, I'm going to take back what I just said about the 7 and the what's going to call it. What's next is going to be the public domains, the domain. So the Winnie the Poohs, the Mickey Mouse and shit like that. That's next. Yeah. We're going to get a good 5 years of that crap. It's going to be. And I don't know if you've seen the Winnie the Pooh movie, but it's the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen.
Oh my god! And it's funny that you say that, because I wanted to watch it maybe within the next couple of weeks. Blood and Honey, and then there's Blood and Honey Part 2, which Blood and Honey looked like. It looked like somebody filmed it in their backyard. It looked horrible, and
it's 100% a cash grab.
It is, and the sad part is it's taken off, And then Part 2, I was reading the reviews on it, I think yesterday. People are like, "Oh, it was so much better than Part 1," and I feel like saying, Christ, if you go outside to a farm and you're filming the flies that are flying around the horse poop, and you're like, oh, this is horrible, and then you start filming people, you're like, oh, hey, this is a lot better. You know what I'm saying? So you film that piece of shit movie, and then you come out with a sequel. You're just filming grasshoppers hopping in the grass for Part 1 for 30 minutes, and then here's your sequel. And you actually have live actors moving around, like, oh my god, this is so much better. Well, no, Part 1 was horrible. Part 2, and now they're making a Part 3, and then, like you said, I believe this will go on the next 5 years. I know they're doing a Steamboat Willie horror movie based off of Mickey Mouse, and then Bambi, I guess they're doing.
Yes, Bambi. Shit, I'm gonna get myself in trouble. But I interviewed the Bambi guy.
Okay.
I interviewed the Snow White guy. I interviewed the Cinderella guy. I got Pinocchio guy coming up soon. and I'm like,
No kidding. Yeah, we could cut this part out. Then I don't want.
no,
Uh,
but it's like, but it's like several Barbie. I've interviewed every single Barbie
yeah.
horror movie person, like, and I'm like, listen, it's fun. Okay, listen, it's fun. It's fun. But at the same time, I think it's going to be such a. I'm not saying it's going to be such a repetitive thing.
Right.
It's just going to be shoving down audiences' throats, and then once you start doing that, then that comes off as a cash grab.
Yeah. No. 100%. And it's just them. Capitalizing on what is successful and just giving. You're feeding that same audience. And
Yeah.
Cinderella. I did see that. That was out in theaters. I was surprised it made it to theaters because I thought it would just be for streaming. But I don't even know how that did. But yeah, I don't even know if it was that. Did you happen to see that?
No, I'm listening. No. I did see Winnie the Pooh in theaters, and I spent the God knows how much money. It was a Phantom event, so it was way more expensive than a normal movie was. But I was like, I'm gonna support an indie horror movie, and
You did the right thing. Yeah.
oh
Your
my
heart,
goodness,
your
man,
your heart was in place.
but I felt like a sucker. I mean, I'm being honest. When I left that movie, I felt like a sucker. Like I really
Yeah.
did. I was like, holy fucking shit! I'm like, this is the worst horror movie. And then
Oh
I was
my
shocked
god.
that it made so much fucking money for an indie horror movie. Which,
Hmm.
listen, good job. But
Right.
I'm like, I could have shot this. I could listen. I've never made a film in my fucking life. I could have shot this on my iPhone, and it will look the same quality.
Well, I think you would have did it better because
Probably so. Yes.
you actually have the brain and knowledge of what you love and what other
But
people
this
love,
is
like the true horror fans.
but this is what I would have done. And I'm like, I'm gonna wrap thing. But this is what I was done. You got a fucking character like Winnie the Pooh, right?
Right. Right.
Why would you not have no Winnie the Pooh kills? You know what I mean? Like him taking a barrel of honey, hot honey, and throwing somebody's in the head. Something. Why wouldn't you use Winnie the Pooh kills or have Winnie the Pooh lore, not just Winnie the Pooh and Piglet with Spirit Halloween costumes on and they're big rednecks killing people, and they don't even fucking talk. They don't say nothing. Like
No.
you know what I mean? Like I'm like, you could have. You could have did something with that. Like it's a good idea, and you could have did something with it besides doing a bad wrong turn movie. Except for they're wearing Winnie the Pooh characters costumes. If that makes any sense.
Oh no! You hit the nail on the head. I mean that makes 100% sense. That almost reminds me of like you said, the hillbillies, almost like the Hills Have Eyes. Came out of the mountains and went to Spirit Halloween and dressed up, and now you're filming a movie and they can't talk because they're
That's
dysfunctional.
that's literally what it was, and the actresses in that movie were just. Anyway, listen, I can sit here all day and pick apart. But I'm not going to fucking listen. And I heard that those filmmakers are complete assholes too.
Are they? Oh, I bet.
Because if you make a bad review about their movie, they will come after you. They will fucking tear your fucking social media apart.
Really?
They're complete fucking assholes too.
Oh,
I would never ever support any of their films. That's me because I hear that they're pieces of shit.
so the ones for that film in particular?
Yeah, that film in particular, I hear that they're.
Oh, then I'm not. Yeah, then now I'm
complete fucking assholes. So I
that's
don't badmouth any filmmakers, but I hear that those guys are fucking assholes. So I will not support them at all.
They're probably in the wrong industry if that's how they're going to treat people, because if you can't handle the criticism, then you don't deserve to be in the light at all. Maybe maybe they should be used car salesmen and just screw people over with vehicles that they think are good and they're crap, just like movies that people think are good and they're crap.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, anybody who's using public domain, do what you got to do. I support you guys. Listen, I just don't want us to go down a Paranormal Activity 30 fucking movies. At some point, let's let's make something new, fresh, and creative. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, it's no. I mean, sadly, I do think that's where we're going to go. So I agree with you on that. Where they're going to the transition from classic, G-rated films, cartoons, now into horror movies. So where do you think we would go after that? I mean, do you think we would go back into a stage now where we're going to be going to like Nosferatu, the original Dracula, Wolfman, and then maybe? Yeah, do you think we would rehash
It's going to
that?
be Silence Lamb. It's going to be Silence Lamb, and 7 is next. Silence Lamb 7 is going to, because you're going to start seeing, you're going to see peaks of Silence Lamb and 7. They're going to be peeking their head into this whole entire cartoon horror movie thing. So they're going to be peeking their head in, but they're going to this cartoon movie thing. It's not going to last for that long. It's not. I'm going to say that's going to last for about 2 years because people are going to quickly realize, okay, this is not whatever. And then, but they're going to be dropping out in 2 years some 7 and Silence of the Lamb type films, but they're going to start picking up right off of the coattail. So I think, yeah, we're going to have a whole bunch of Winnie the Poohs this year and next year, but those 7 and Silence of the Lamb are going to come right into the middle of next year, and they're just going to roll.
I could see that. Almost like bring back like the psychological thrillers, like horror movies. Really make you think. And I think where horror movies kind of strayed away, like when you in movies where like the door, you would see a scene, the door you closed is now open, the light that you turned on is now off. Certain scenes like that, just to get in people's head, rather than just doing cheap scares on screen. I could see Silence of the Lambs. I mean, that was such a dark, haunting film to watch with Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster, and I could see them definitely going back to that.
Yep. And I hope so, because I enjoy those kind of horror.
Oh, they're so good. Yeah.
So I hope that's where we're going after the Winnie the Pooh stage.
Yeah, and then they're having that remake of The Crow, which I am 100% against. I feel that that's like one of the dark comic horror movies, like one of the classics with Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son that played the Crow, and Eric Draven. And then this new one that's coming out looks just horrible. I
actually think it looks great.
You think so?
And I'm a huge fan of the original Crow. Crow City Angels. I'm not going to talk about that.
That was.
I'm gonna pretend like that never happened.
Yeah.
But, the original Crow got me into. So that came out. Shit. I was in junior high. I was in 6th grade when that movie came out. Maybe 5th or 6th grade. And that movie actually got me into alternative music. That soundtrack.
Yep.
It actually got me into rock music because I wasn't a rock fan, but I was like, oh my goodness, that soundtrack was the soundtrack, the action, the cinematography, the shades, it was just a perfect action fucking movie.
It really was, and then you see the revenge that he gets, and I felt that it was so good. This, I mean, I believe it's Jared Leto that's playing Eric Draven.
What's his name? It's Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård. Oh, the guy from Pennywise.
Yeah, right? He's a great fucking actor. He was in Barbarian, which I fucking love that movie.
So I haven't seen that. That is on my list.
And he played one of the best villains I've seen in an action movie in a long time in John Wick 4.
Okay, I have to check that one out too. I know. I think he fits the character well. I was excited. I know the reason I mentioned Jared Leto. I know he was attached to it at one point, and then now that they got Bill doing it, he fits the role. I just feel that the tattoos and everything, and just it just I feel like it just takes away from who the character is, where you can explore more. It just looks like where they're taking the character. I just feel like it doesn't justify it. But maybe in my mind, it can't be justified because I'm such a big fan of the original. It's one of my favorites, along with like Evil Dead. Evil Dead's such a great movie to me because of the budget that they had, which was next to nothing, and they still somehow managed to tell a great story. And yeah, I guess maybe it can't be justified because I'm such a big fan of it.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous because The Crow is in my top 10 favorite films all the time, and my number 2 favorite all the time is getting a sequel, Gladiator, and I'm so fucking nervous about that.
Yeah,
I'm so nervous about that. The Denzel Washington's attached. It looks great, but I'm like so nervous because the first Gladiator, I saw that when I was in high school in the theaters. By the way, surround sound, everything, and it's such a fucking good movie. I've seen that movie probably 100 times. It's such a great movie, and like. Does it need a sequel? Not really, but I will be there to watch a sequel.
No, me too. I love the original. Then when you have Denzel attached in the sequel, it brings the star power. I mean, I saw the pictures, and he just looks like he's going to kill the role. You know,
I hope so, man.
And
I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. And I will be there on opening night for that one. I mean, that's a big one for me. And then Top Gun, like when Maverick came out, I was excited to see that. I thought that one was great. But great. And then Russell Crowe can't be in Gladiator 2, but once I saw that Denzel was attached, that grabbed my excitement, and I don't know otherwise if I would have felt justified or hungry to see it as I am now that he's attached and I just see that he's going to kill the role, you know? He's one of the best actors.
Really is. I just don't like my favorite movies to be rebooted or have sequels.
No, yeah.
Like it's almost like Bloodsport is my favorite. Yes, Bloodsport is my favorite movie all the time with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Really?
Yes, and I would not want to see a reboot of that. Listen, they put out a bunch of shitty sequels. I would not want to see someone do a modern version of Bloodsport.
Oh my god!
I probably wouldn't want to watch it.
But Bloodsport is so good, just with the sand in the eyes and having to, you know that. Jeez,
and I mean, that 80s soundtrack and the bopping in the background.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, it screams 80s. It screams 80s.
All over. Yeah. Yes. No, such a classic. The sequels. How many were there? There were quite a few, right?
God, I think it was 4. No, there was 3 sequels, and I mean they're unwatchable. I mean they're absolutely unwatchable.
Absolutely horrible. Yeah,
they're absolutely unwatchable. It's like the sequels to Candyman. Candyman is probably one of my favorite horror movies.
Oh, it was so freaking scary. Yeah,
it's the first movie that really scared the shit out of me. The sequels are unwatchable to me, including the reboot. They're fucking unwatchable.
Yeah, I didn't. My buddy saw the reboot on opening night. He didn't like it, and I didn't. I love the original so much that I don't want the new one to ruin it.
Don't watch it.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not going to now. I mean, now I'm getting.
I have a video up. By the way, that will be at the end of this interview. That if you want to click on, it is like the biggest disappointment. In a horror movie. I did a whole thing about, this was the biggest disappointment for me out of a horror movie that I was excited to see, and it fucking killed me, man.
I was surprised he actually wanted to reprise his role as Candyman because he must have read the screenplay.
Well, spoiler alert, he's only in it for 10 seconds.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's insane.
Spoiler alert.
That's horrible. I mean, that's like Freddy Krueger. That's like making a Nightmare on Elm Street and having having him come on for 5-10 minutes. I mean, that's a cash grab right there if I've ever seen one.
It wasn't even. It was seconds.
That's horrible.
Seconds.
Wow, I'm surprised.
It just fucking bothered me, and and that movie came out. Yeah, well. Listen, it's going to be up and make sure to watch it. But it just bothered me because that movie came out. That movie came out during Black Lives Matter, Donald Trump president, COVID, all that shit. So all this stuff was going on in the country, and And Jordan Peele attached himself to this one too.
Oh yeah, he's so good too. He's phenomenal.
But yeah, so it was just so political. The movie was just so political, and like I'm like, and I don't go especially horror movies to go and sit there and feel fucking like, oh my goodness, it sucks being black in this country. You know what I mean? I don't feel like that.
No, yeah.
I want to go and see. I don't want this fucking looming fucking message going on.
Right. No, I 110% agree with you on that. Taking it in that direction, yeah, it's kind of sad, yeah, because it was such a great franchise. Well, I mean, the first one was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you're steering it into a different way.
Yeah. I mean, it talks about police brutality constantly, Black Lives Matter constantly, which is all this stuff is great things and stuff, and all the
of course,
gentrification constantly. And then it had the overlooming theme that I hate as a black man about Jordan Peele's movies, and that's black woman coming to save black man. And watch my reasonable who like, and it just bothers me. Like it just the whole movie. I saw it in the theaters and I fell asleep halfway.
Okay, so that
the movie and woke back up.
So that was almost like forced, right? Like where he forced.
It was so forced. It was so forced. It was like right down the fucking throat. But he was the producer, and it was a black woman who directed it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can tell. It just fucking By the way, there's nothing wrong with black women directing horror films, but when you try to push your agenda on the people in that whole entire movie, I'm like, okay, this is tough. This is not Candyman. This is not Candyman at all.
Right,
it's something else.
It's more of maybe her emotions getting ahead of her to where she wants to send a message rather than justify the story and the actor of Candyman, the main actor.
I would have. It would probably been great if you didn't put Candy. If you did that film and just didn't put Candyman attached to it, I probably would have been like, okay, this wasn't that bad. But the fact that you did a movie and you attached Candyman to it, that was only in it for 10 seconds. But and the movie really wasn't about fucking Candyman. It just fucking bothered me. And I'm like, okay, is this is this like a sucker thing? Like, I felt like a sucker with that one too. I'm like, oh, I thought I was seeing a Candyman movie, and I saw something that was not a Candyman movie at all.
That's a shame. Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of just grabbing the audience and drawing attention to it, because maybe otherwise on a standalone it would probably be a great story on their own. Going like with police brutality and Black Lives Matter, that's a real thing that the world's facing.
Gentrification on how black communities are no longer black communities getting pushed out. You could have did that, and you don't have to attach Candyman to it because it's real stuff. I mean, it's real shit. But damn, Jason, I don't expect to go to a horror movie and like. I go to horror movies to fucking escape. If I wanted to see a drama, if I wanted to see a drama or something like that with a huge, hard political message pounding you in the face,
right,
for 2 fucking hours, that's something different. But I came to a Candyman horror movie to see fucking Candyman. People get in the mirror, see Candyman 3 times, and him fucking hooking to death. That's what I came to see.
Oh, that's what scared the hell out of us.
And I didn't get that. And I didn't get that. There was hardly. I think there might have been 2 or 3 kills in the whole entire fucking movie. If that.
Oh my god.
And none of them were good. Like it was not a Candyman. It was cash grab, 100%.
Yeah, that's horrible. I mean, I just feel that. That movie scared the hell out of me as I was a kid. That movie and Leprechaun. Yeah. Leprechaun was very scary. Like when you're a kid, and Candyman, Leprechaun. Those characters just scare the hell out of you because you think that some of the shit is real, because obviously as you're a kid, your imagination is growing and you have nightmares, right? And you wake up and you're confused. And if you have nightmares of the things that you see on TV, that scares the hell out of you, And Candyman was such a scary character. Great, phenomenal, one of the best. Legendary.
The voice to everything. The voice and everything is just fucking terrifying.
Very terrifying.
All right. Jason, where can everyone find you?
So, I have, as far as my stories.
In stories, social media.
So I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Film Freeway. I have 3 of my books out. Well, they're being sold as books in screenplay format. That's Eggs in the Attic, Once Upon a Dirt Nap, which is also, it's a horror comedy. Both take place in the 80s. And then I did bridge off and write a romance comedy. That was one and done. I can't. That took me like a year to write, just to challenge myself. It got a lot of attention, but it's my true love is horror, and it always will be. I mean, that's just like you. We have the same exact taste. I just love horror, and yeah, they're all available on books. Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Amazon. All 3 of them are at those places to purchase. Some of them are on eBay. Yeah, so on Google, if you Google my name, those books will come up. Like I said, Eggs in the Attic, Once Upon a Dirt Nap, or Why Me? And then as for social media, Facebook is the best for me.
Perfect. Jason, this was a fun interview. And
I had a pleasure.
I'd love to have you on anytime, man. I'd love to have you on back on anytime.
Any time you want me back, I would definitely more than happy come on and talk. I thoroughly enjoyed talking with you about this. It was just phenomenal. Really an honor.
Thank you. And also shout out to Magic of Horror Film Festival and Shiva Rodriguez.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes, great. They're great over there. And listen, get over to Amazon and wherever you can find your books and grab your copy of Eggs in the Attic and Jason's other work, and follow him on Facebook. All right, everyone, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that is Jason Cappuccino. Well, hold on.
Capuccio. Well, no, that's okay. It is. I mean, that is like one of the hardest names to follow, to pronounce. But I also want to say thank you to Magic of Horror, and she, a very kind, wonderful woman. Such a great film festival. I honestly, anybody who's looking to go out that way or can go out that way, make the trip. Magic of Horror was it was a phenomenal film festival to be a part of, and she is a wonderful person, and is very kind of her, and to mention me, and for you to, be interested in interviewing me. It was a pleasure being interviewed by you. You're phenomenal at what you do, and it was just phenomenal talking with you, and I feel that your view on horror movies is as accurate as can be.
Thank you, my friend. Listen, I appreciate that. And I agree about the team over at Magic Horror Film Festival. There's a lot of horror film festivals out there that are scams. Yeah. Let's be honest, they're fucking scams. There's more of them than not. There are fucking scams.
Sadly, yeah.
Horror, they're not. They are going to, it's a legit film festival. You can actually go to the film festival. And they're going to, and their alumni, they continue supporting you even years later, and and promoting your work even after the film festival's on. So I mean, they are one of the class act most legit horror film festivals around.
Oh, well said. Very genuine film festival that cares, and you couldn't have said it better. I hope you enjoy the film festival. You'll love it, just being in the audience and viewing everything. They do a hell of a job.
I can't wait to get out there October. But by the way, if anybody's out there, it's going to be in October. I know the dates, but I can't think on top of my head. But it's going to be in Richmond, Virginia. So definitely look up Magic of Horror Film Festival. All right, everyone. Thank you once again for coming to the Horror Room, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Absolutely. Take care, Travis.
You too, brother.
Thank you.